Does he not understand the irony of telling somebody they're not punk because they're wearing the wrong shirt? What's up, everybody? I'm Finn McKenty. This is the Punk Rock MBA. Today, I'm back to answer a bunch of your questions and comments. But before I do that, I want to hear from you guys because, you know, my favorite part of this whole thing is talking to you guys. I don't want to just be the one like blabbing, running my mouth. I want to hear from you guys. I want to get to know you. So tell me in the comments who you are. Like, where are you from? How old are you? What do you do for a living? Do you go to school? What are your goals? Tell me about yourselves. I want to get to know you guys. I read all my comments. I probably shouldn't, but I do. So I will definitely see it. Also, wanted to share a couple cool things. Number one, I actually got a shout out this week from the Vandals, which is amazing. Shared my skate punk video and had some nice things to say about it, which is really cool. Also got a comment from Fat Mike from NOFX on the same video. So like in the same day, I got a share from the Vandals and a comment from Fat Mike. Like that's pretty crazy. Also last week I uploaded a How They Got So Big video about Green Day, which got premiered by Kerrang! And also somebody sent me a pair of these socks. Check them out and thank you for the gift. But with that out of the way, let's get into the comments. First, from Alex H.
I get a lot of shit for being nearly 30 years old and still being interested in fangirling about the same bands that led me into the scene when I was in middle school, i.e. Newfound Glory, etc. As someone who now works in social media / marketing professionally after earning a bachelor's in music business, this channel is super informative, entertaining, and helps me as a professional to not feel like my love of the scene and my corporate job, a term I use loosely because I get to dress and look however I want, are not mutually exclusive. Long live those that are successful, supportive of the scene, and staying true to themselves at the same time. Cheers and keep making great content.
First of all, Alex, thanks for watching. Man, I love this. This makes me really happy. This is like exactly kind of where I wanted to go with this channel. If you dig around, you'll find like punk, hardcore, metal people all over the place doing all kinds of cool shit. As just one example, a guy named Elgin James started a hardcore gang basically called FSU that you guys might have heard of. You may have even seen they did an episode of Gangland about him. He came up in like the Boston hardcore scene, was in a band called Wrecking Crew, and also on 454 Big Block. Went to prison. To make a long story short, now he is a successful Hollywood screenwriter. He wrote the new Sons of Anarchy spinoff, Mayans MC, that came out a couple months ago. And that's just one of like a zillion examples of this. People from our world find their way into so many cool places. I'm always excited to hear from you guys who are doing cool shit. Alex, it sounds like you're one of them. Next one from the Cairo Freed, a very important question.
Why do you think Square Enix is avoiding making a Final Fantasy VI remake?
It's a good question. On the other hand, I kind of am happy that they haven't remade Final Fantasy VI because it's just so good the way it is. Like, I don't know what you could possibly add to it that would make it better, and there's a lot of things you can do to fuck it up and make it worse. So maybe it's better that they haven't done a Final Fantasy VI remake. If you guys like old school JRPGs, I think Final Fantasy VI is like the pinnacle of the genre. So definitely check out Final Fantasy VI if you haven't. Another thing you've heard me talk about a lot is like these snobby elitist gatekeepers that think they're better than somebody else because they listen to band X instead of band Y. Here's a good example of this from Walter the Einstein Frog.
It's really funny when these subgenres that were originally frowned upon as poser shit eventually get their own elitist gatekeepers. Reminds me of when I was teaching and a student snobbishly and defensively replied to me that he only likes, quote, real old school emo like Thursday.
Now, I'm not putting Thursday down. They're a great band and they seem like really cool guys. It's just funny because when they came out, they were considered the exact opposite of like real old school emo, right? Like there's just this thing that I've talked about before. I did a video about the Devil Wears Prada a while ago where I touched on this. A band comes out doing something different and they're regarded as poser bullshit, and then 10 years later, as their fans become old enough to become like the tastemakers, now the band is quote-unquote real music, and if you don't like them, you're an idiot poser. And speaking of elitist gatekeepers, from Ty Johnson.
Dude, you're wearing a Suicide Silence shirt and are talking about how Black Flag play terrible music. The fuck out of here, WTF.
Does he not understand the irony of telling somebody they're not punk because they're wearing the wrong shirt? And next one from Riley Knox.
Unrelated, but did people straight up buy flannel immediately in '92 and pretend hair metal never happened? Do you know anyone that totally changed looks? I imagine it's similar to scene kids going true hardcore now, but it's still a funny transition idea.
Yes, that is exactly what happened. Like every hair metal band that was, you know, wearing like neon leopard print spandex with hair out to here, when Nirvana came out and suddenly like that wasn't cool anymore, they changed their style overnight and tried to become grunge bands, and it was just so bad. Like Poison, Warrant, Motley Crue, I don't know, they all put out like a grunge album. with some like edgy, like dark, serious cover, and like it was just so bad. Must be scary though to like see the trends just like instantly turn against you. I get why they would try, and it's funny to laugh at it now, but honestly I get why it would be scary and why they would try to do that. Next one from Ben Likes to Music.
You ever thought about reviewing music?
I have thought about it, but I don't think I would ever do that. The internet has so many people out there already that do a great job of reviewing music, Anthony Fantano being an obvious example. I don't know that I really have anything especially interesting to add to the conversation. What I'm interested in is thinking about like the big picture trends, thinking about the business, and like understanding why things worked and didn't work, why people like what they like. That's what I'm interested in. It's kind of like the underlying like trends and psychology behind these things. The merits of the music itself, I mean, of course I have my opinions on these things. I like and dislike things just like anybody else, but does the internet really need another person throwing out their opinions on whether they like this band or that band? I don't think so, but if you guys really want me to do it, I would consider it, but probably not. Next one from Zanim or Zanim.
Man, such good information and images in this video, so this leads me to make a question. How many hours do you spend making a video like this? Because it looks like a lot for me.
Yes, it is a lot of work. To make something like that Green Day video that I put out last week, I would say probably took me in the neighborhood of 15 or 20 hours. The most time-consuming part of that is actually writing it. So, you know, I do the intro like this, and then I read like a script that I've written, and doing the research for that and like figuring out what's going to go into that script, that is by far the most time-consuming part. The edit is also fairly time-consuming, but I can get through that fairly quickly. It takes me maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours to do the edit. The writing and research is definitely the most time-consuming part. Next one from Within Sight.
Could you do a video on how the internet and social media changed the music scene for smaller and upcoming bands? There's a huge saturation of bands in all genres because now every little band can make a Facebook, and none of them know how to market themselves, so no matter how good they are, they will never break through that lower level of band.
All right, I understand why you feel this way, and I understand it's frustrating to try to break through because, again, the first like 9 months that I did this channel, nobody gave a fuck, and it was really frustrating. So I get why you feel that way, but it's just not true. The fact of the matter is, this is the best time ever in history to be a musician, especially a DIY musician. Here's what people don't want to hear, but it's kind of the truth, is that the internet is mostly a meritocracy. If you are really good at what you do and you consistently put it out there into the world, it will catch on. And if it's not catching on, then you need to be honest with yourself and say, maybe what I'm doing is not as good as it could be. And I know that's a hard conversation to have with yourself because I've had that conversation with myself many times too. Like I said, 9 months ago, nobody gave a fuck about the videos I was putting out. All the like shitty local bands putting out their crappy EPs and stuff, it's not gonna hold you back at all. So just don't worry about what they're doing, focus on what you are doing, and just block all that other shit out. Next one from Taylor Bound.
Could you make a playlist for videos like this in the future?
Meaning like a Spotify playlist. So for example, I made an easy core video. What if I also made a Spotify playlist to go along with that? Would anybody be interested in that? It would definitely take some work for me to do that, but if it would make like the video more enjoyable for you to be able to like listen to all that stuff and know what I'm talking about, then I will consider it. So let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in that. From Moses Castellano.
This may not really interest you, but I grew up listening to a lot of Christian hardcore and metal. I want to know what are your thoughts on some of these bands like Sleeping Giant, Close Your Eyes, For Today, Advent, Vinea, and just like bands on Face On Records, and why that subgenre of heavy music declined massively over the last couple years.
Great idea. I'm not Christian myself, but for whatever reason, I've always had kind of a soft spot for like Christian metal and hardcore bands. Back in the day, I used to really love like Focal Point and Unashamed. More recently, like Impending Doom and Sleeping Giant are pretty awesome. There's a band back in the day called Embodiment that put out a really cool album back in like '98 that was way ahead of its time. So yes, I will definitely do a video about that. Great idea. Next one from Hot Putrid Vomit.
Dude, why did cock and ball torture get so big?
Now that's a video I can get behind. The answer is because somebody made that video with like Jabba the Hutt or whatever in it to that song that I can't remember that has a really good like groove riff in it. So that's the answer to why cock and ball torture got kind of popular for a minute with weird people on the internet. Next one from A Good Speller.
Hey Finn, this is completely off topic, but I would appreciate feedback. I'm a designer and I'm wondering how I would go about working with bands to design merch, album artwork, or just posters. I've never worked with any bands, but I've designed for 18 years. Should I try to contact via social media, speak in person if chance is given, or do bands simply search for designers based on social portfolios? Again, thank you.
Great question. The answer is all the above. What I would do is have a portfolio of work that represents the work you want to do. So for example, if your day job is designing like medical device packaging and your portfolio is full of that, get rid of that, make a portfolio that's only representative of stuff that bands would find compelling, and then do what you said, meet them at shows, message them on like Instagram or whatever, post your work, and eventually something will happen. Here's the thing, it may seem like it's impossible to like ever break into work working with the bands you want to work with as a designer or an artist or videographer, any of that stuff. But remember, they're looking for you just as much as you were looking for them, because it's really hard as a band or a label or whatever. It's really hard to find good people to work with. So remember, if you're good at what you do, and if you've been designing for 18 years, you probably are pretty good. You have a valuable skill set. They want to work with you just as much as you want to work with them. So if you're actually good, once you connect with them, things are going to happen quickly. Next one from Malherby Lombard.
I found your channel through Fluff. I thought it's a great idea to spread your curiosity to any topic. Yours keeps bringing me back to your content. I may not be a marketing guy, but I am a graphic designer / illustrator. Your content does help me think outside the box, what to do or plan for a comic book that I keep working on. For example, how to market it or find a way to bring people's attention to my comic book. I will keep on watching and curiosity growing.
Thank you. I love to hear that, because as some of you guys know, before I did marketing and stuff, I was actually a graphic designer for a long time. So the world of like art and design is very near and dear to me. The means by which you would market an album or a piece of merch or whatever is the same way that you would market a comic book for the most part. So glad you picked up on that, and I'm glad it's helpful. And thank you for watching. From Gaby Glowsticks.
I'm a business, marketing, and entrepreneurship grad in this music scene, and also love RPGs / JRPGs too. So I just love your vids and appreciate our common interest. Also, thanks for the dialogue about how entrepreneurship is punk. That's really inspiring to me as a dreamer.
Glad to hear it. Thank you. And you said you're a dreamer. Well, I will have a piece of advice for you. Don't just dream, do shit. You may have heard the phrase like that it's 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. That is 100% true, meaning dreams are great, but you gotta do shit along with that dream if you want to make it happen. So that's my advice to any of you guys who are also dreamers. Okay, I'm not gonna read this whole thing here, but this is like an amazing comment from SF Lover 94. This person, he or she, just like laid out a whole like year of content for me. This is amazing. Like some examples of ideas for the What Killed series, for the How Did Blank Get So Big series, and from like a potential series on analyzing different genres. I love you. Thank you very much for doing that. These are actually very well done. Next one from Flynn Hanbury Tennyson.
What books would you recommend for someone who wants to be a record producer or in the music production industry who wants to learn about it?
I would actually not recommend any books on this. What I would recommend you do is subscribe to the YouTube channel for URM Academy. That is the company that I work for. I'm the director of marketing for URM Academy. We are an online school for rock and metal producers using the actual multi-tracks from bands that you guys may have heard of, like Bring Me the Horizon, A Day to Remember, Gojira, Periphery, Meshuggah, Lamb of God, big bands like that. But we have a YouTube channel with like hundreds and hundreds of hours of free shit on there, so I will link that in the description. I don't think you need to go to college for that stuff, because nobody gives a shit about your degree, and the stuff you learn in the classroom at recording school is like not really how they do things in the real world. I think you need to just educate yourself. I believe that our company is the best way to do that, but you know, there's all this stuff out there on YouTube. Like you can teach yourself a lot for free, so that's what I would do. Just dig into YouTube and start teaching yourself. I don't think you need any books. And lastly, from Julia Spear.
Hey, well, I've got your attention. Would you mind doing a video about yourself, how you got into music and all that? I think would be super cool. Not that I don't love all your videos, but something a little more opinionated from you I think would be awesome.
Well, I don't know if I want to do a whole video about myself, because I don't think anybody would give a shit about that. But I guess to answer your question about how I got into this kind of weird music is I discovered Suicidal Tendencies. So this was, again, in 1989 or 90, I forget which, but they had been banned and playing in LA for years. So those of you guys who don't know, they're like kind of a gang affiliated band, and so their shows back then were really fucked up and violent. I never went to any of them because I was a child. And so because of that, they had been banned from playing in LA for like 5 years. There was a segment on MTV News about how they were finally allowed to play in LA for the first time, and they interviewed Mike Muir and showed the crowd and played one of their songs. And that was like the first time I heard something that was like, oh fuck yes, this is what I'm into, was Suicidal Tendencies back then. And so I went out and I bought that tape. I think it was for my birthday, maybe my 11th or 12th birthday. I got that tape, and I got Sex Pistols' Nevermind the Bollocks, and it was kind of just all downhill from there. So then it all just spiraled out of control, and here I am now making weird videos on YouTube about 90s hardcore bands. Anyway, that is all I have for now. Thank you guys to everybody who comments. Remember, don't forget to tell me about yourself in the comments. I want to get to know you guys. It's not just a one-way thing here. This is a two-way conversation between all of us. We're all friends here. This is one big community, so let's get to know each other in the comments. And with that, I'm going to sign off for now, but as always, I will see you next time.